So welcome to part 2 of my video book review of White Moon on the Mountain Peak by Damo Mitchell. This book is on the alchemical process of Nadon. And if you missed part 1, you definitely want to go back and check that out, as this is going to be part 2 of a 3-part series. So you want to make sure that you catch all 3 parts to get a really comprehensive view for what we're talking about. In this particular installment, what I want to do is share with you the 3 main reasons why I think this is a really awesome book, and also tie it into some of Damo's other books as a way of substantiating what I'm talking about. And then in part 3, what I'm going to do is go through like specific parts of the book and share with you a few things that really like jumped out and were pretty profound for me. So the main top 3 reasons why I think this book serves a really unique and amazing purpose in combination with Damo's other books, which I have here also. One is the Taoist Neigong, the other is Heavenly Streams, and the other is called The Four Dragons. So the first reason why I think the White Moon on the Mountain Peak in combination with the other books is incredibly unique and special is that it presents an organized and fairly systematic process that a person and or a practitioner can move through. And I think this is really unique and important because in modern times we have just a surplus and massive abundance of information. Every day new books are being published, new teachers are showing up, new videos are being put online, and there's just this constant barrage of ancient teachings that we can access, whether it's yoga or tai chi or qigong or meditation or breathing or alchemy, or so many different shapes and sizes and permutations of each and every one of those different things. So at some point I've definitely seen it to be a pretty common thing where a person just sort of is just kind of all over the place in their practice and in their process, which at a certain stage is really useful just to get an idea and some familiarity. But past a certain point, it's easy for us as practitioners to really waste our time and energy, going to this thing and that thing and this thing and that thing, and never really achieving any depth, and or more importantly, not really knowing or having a systemized or systematic, organized process to kind of move through. Meaning kind of like where stages are fairly clearly defined with, distinct stages. So we can kind of have a map to know where we are and where we're trying to get to, so that when we get lost, which we inevitably will because we're humans, we have some place to come back to, which I think is sorely missing and lacking in our modern world. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that this book, as well as the other books, has a really strong foundation in the theoretical as well as the experiential. And from what I've seen, at least in my time in this arena, is that people often can be on one extreme or the other, where there's tons of books out there that are written from a purely theoretical standpoint, meaning people are just scholars. They don't really practice, or if they do practice, they're maybe not very deep into it, or it's just maybe kind of a sideline hobby. Whereas I know for a fact this is basically Damo's life and has been for his entire life. Otherwise these probably wouldn't exist. And it also just says that on the back of the book in his bio. So which would tell us that, okay, cool, obviously there's a theoretical component. I mean, this book is not thin, but there's also obviously an experiential component as well, which sometimes I've met teachers and people that are they have the experience, they're really deep into it, but they're not able to really communicate it, or they don't have a theoretical basis, so there's a real gap. And being that we're modern humans and we're really mental, oftentimes we need to know, well, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are we working with? Where's it going? Why is it important? We have all these questions and all these things that we need to know before our mind will eventually just, oh, okay, and then to actually be able to practice. So I think that is also a unique thing. The third thing is because, at least in my opinion, the point of views put out in these books and basically the system in general seems to be fairly inclusive and self-aware. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's really common where maybe a famous teacher originally studied with another famous teacher, but the famous teacher in question, he only really liked one piece of everything that the big, super famous major teacher taught. So that other teacher just took the one piece and then taught the one piece to everyone, and everyone thought the one piece was the whole thing, but in actuality it was just one piece, or what that person happened to like, or what happened to work for their nature. But what happens is the self-awareness is lost, meaning the teacher says, or the teacher doesn't say, well, actually, I was gonna learn all this other stuff, but I didn't like it, I didn't feel like it, so I didn't, because this particular one piece works for me and my nature, and this is what I'm teaching, and I realize that it's missing A, B, and C, or I realize it only includes A, B, or C. And I think that's a major thing that's lost a lot in modern times. And another specific example of what I mean is, like, for example, in the Four Dragons, or in Heavenly Streams, or Taoist Neigong, there's clear distinctions to where Damo will say, well, if you're familiar with Chinese medicine thought, this is kind of what they believe, but we're actually looking at it a little bit differently because we're looking at it more alchemically, or more from a Neigong perspective. So that's a really important distinction, because being that we're humans and we have this amazing logical brain, too often people get stuck in the idea of, well, is it this or is it that? It has to be one or the other, it can't be both, which I think, at least in my experience, is pretty far removed from the actual philosophy of Chinese medicine and Chinese philosophy and Taoism. It's not really Aristotelian and based in either or like our logic is. It's a bit more inclusive and a bit more of a spectrum and a bit more contextual and relative, which is great. However, it's not so great when you forget all those things and you just think, this is my system, it's the best, we have everything, and it's good for everyone. That's fine, but again, for me personally, I find the idea of having self-awareness to be important and helpful. And also, when I said inclusive, what I meant by inclusive is that in these books, Damo could easily say, oh, well, Chinese medicine's stupid. All you need is alchemy, or all you need is Neigong. So who cares about Chinese medicine? And a lot of people say, oh, Chinese medicine's great. All you need is this, so you don't need all this other stuff. Again, so what I mean by inclusive is, at least in these books, tends to be a real merging of different philosophies and different ways of looking at things, which personally I find to be more intelligent and more useful and more effective, because let's face it, as humans, we're all just a little bit different, and we all, more importantly, have different natures and different mings, different life paths, so that there needs to be a high degree of adaptability to that. So those are my 3 reasons, as long-winded as it may have been. Either way, this is part 2. Be sure to check out part 1, and also be on the lookout for part 3, where I'll share more specifics and show you some cool stuff from the book. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to my channel, post a comment, share the video, and or buy the books if you're interested. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.